All right, hey gang, Ross Brand here for Livestream Universe. I will get my picture up here in just a second. I was checking the destinations. I got a message about there being a bit of a slow connection. And I don't know for sure if I'm on, but I'm just going to keep rolling through it because it shows that I'm live. Let me just check YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, just throw something in the chat and let me know that we are live. As I check YouTube, I can hear my echo. I'm definitely on. So we're going to roll on with it. Hopefully you're able to see this on Facebook and on Periscope and Twitter. If not, well, you won't hear me say this, but not StreamYard Connect. Gotten thrown off here a little bit. Okay. Deep breath. We're going to start again. All right. Live. Had screen flow open. That's probably half the problem. Okay. So we're going to try this again. We have three great guests here. We have Nancy Ankowitz, who's the author of Self-Promotion for Introverts. She's a business communication coach and also an NYU professor, a blogger for Psychology Today. And she's terrific. She's got a great book. And we're going to talk about the reality of having to work from home, and that means doing video presentations and video webinars and virtual meetings and all that kind of stuff. If you're an introvert, if you're not somebody who loves to do that, Nancy's got some great tips that'll hopefully make it easier for you to both get accustomed to doing that and build your brand as well. Chef Daniela is here, and she's phenomenal. She hosts a 2-camera StreamYard live stream cooking show, all plant-based. Can't wait to have her on. She's actually going to demo a recipe as we talk with her. And then Elikqitie is here. You know her from the Gluten Free Podcast. Well, she's got a book out, The Guide to Traveling Gluten Free. It's the first time I think we've been on all the products. You can check out everything that we talk about by going to livestreamdeals.com. You can also check out the description if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. The links are in the description for the products and even secondary and related products that we may discuss along the way. So with all that, let's get right to it. I do want to mention that you're going to see some backgrounds along the way. D. Nimmin, you know him from the Nimminati from Nimmin Live, and he's a mobile video expert, also part of the StreamYard content creation team. He's been contributing some backgrounds and templates for me to customize, and not being a graphic designer, I probably butchered them a little bit, but the idea is that they're very easy to use and customize. You'll tell me when I bring them up if you like them. I think they're really, really cool. He's got like 6 of them. You can check them out at livestreamuniverse.com/templates. And Dee's a good friend, and he did really a great service to StreamYard users, making it easy to look good on video when you're using StreamYard. And it's overlays, it's backgrounds, it's everything. So I'm just starting. I learned how to use Photopea from watching his tutorial videos last night, and I put this together. We'll see how it goes. Meanwhile, let's get to our first guest. Nancy Ankowitz is the author of Self-Promotion for Introverts. She's also an NYU professor, a business communication coach, and a friend. Nancy, thanks so much for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm thrilled to be here with you, Ross, and your wonderful audience and your other guests you piqued my imagination. So terrific.
So this is an interesting time. A lot of people who you work with are introverts and probably never thought they would have to be doing video presentations and virtual meetings and communicating with groups of people where they're speaking and there's a camera in their face and a microphone and they have to come through rather than, say, finding a quiet space in a meeting room or an office to meet with people. What are you finding as far as when you talk to your clients or you talk to people that you've worked with? What are you finding their reactions are to this experience and what they're telling you about? Do they like this? Do they not like it? How's the adjustment been for people that you know?
Many are secretly loving it because we get to control our environments a little more. Now, of course, depending on who you have in your home space, animals, people, whatnot, but a lot of them feel more of a sense of control over their space, their environment, and even having little Post-its about what they want to say.
Right.
Which you can't do as well or as simply in an in-person meeting. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happening as well amid all the really tough stuff that we're all navigating.
Well, I remember when I was at NYU and I was in grad school and I had not given a lot of in front of the room presentations. I had worked in radio and, had some big audiences, but that's different because you don't see the audience and they're not looking at you and you don't have to be conscious of your body language or how you present. And the first couple times, because every class now has a presentation and a group project. So the first couple times I was so nervous going up. And then I had an online course, and everybody in the online course after the first day usually shuts their video camera off. So then it was just like doing radio when I had presentations. So I got comfortable and eventually built up the skill set of speaking in front of people, but it's not necessarily something that we're used to doing, and we're not used to looking into a camera is not a really natural thing for people.
Yes, in fact, it was thrilling when you came. I hope I can tell tales out of school.
Sure.
You came as a guest lecturer when I invited you to one of my graduate classes at NYU, and it was thrilling. Actually, this is way pre-COVID, and you had arrived in front of the room completely virtually. And there was this giant screen in front of the room. And there you were, Ross, visiting us. And I sat with my students in a row. And that's the way that room was shaped. Otherwise, yes, I like the semicircle. But anyhow, it was thrilling. It was like you had completed our room by being in front of the room on the big screen. And yes, there are a lot of differences for the virtual experience. For one thing is the eye contact. Mm-hmm. I mean, who is born being used to looking into a camera as if that's an eye? And one of my favorite techniques, by the way, is I bought false eyelashes to put on top of the video camera.
I'm still working on it after 5 years of live streaming. I'm still like, it's just natural to look down and want to see your expression. And
it's like we want to look at ourselves. Some of us don't. And then there's also, it's not natural to see somebody giant on your video screen. And that can be intimidating, especially if we're talking about job interviews or talking to your boss or your boss's boss or somebody, CEO, what have you. It can be really like, whoa. Right. But there's a lot you can do. And especially if you're an introvert, it's a lot in the preparation, practice out loud can make all the difference in the world. And that matters. matters also with a live in-person presentation, but all the more so with video, because you can control your elements. We can all hit record now. It's so easy, whether it's from your smartphone or the likes of your video program or app. It's so easy.
Well, you know what's interesting? When I was growing up, there's a lot of talk now about introverts and social styles and all these things that there was no language to really explain what an introvert was. And people thought I was strange because if I went out, did something socially Friday night, Saturday night, I would want to stay in or I would want to go home or whatever. And people didn't like, what's wrong? You don't like hanging out with it? No, I just like my natural thing is one time I go out, then I'm going to want to retreat for a while. And even when I was in college, I was driving, I was about an hour from home. Every third weekend or so, I would want to just like get away from it all and, travel back home and sleep in my own bed and be away from all the busyness, right? And then I go back and I'm energized. I'm enjoying it, but I had no way to explain to people what that is. And there was sort of a sense, you don't seem to really want to be around us as much as we want to be around each other and around you because we never leave except during Thanksgiving break or, and so it's like now it's understood. But back then, I don't think people, you didn't know if there was something wrong with you because, you were antisocial. Like now I understand what it is, but we didn't have that language. When did you start learning about what an introvert is and what are some of the misconceptions that introverts face because of their need to have some downtime and alone time and replenish their energy?
Sure. It sounds like you really know what an introvert is, and it's where you
I've been one for quite a while.
Me too. And so to your first question, I learned I was an introvert, or it got confirmed when I took the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the most popular personality assessment when I was on Wall Street, where I spent 12 years, and they gave everybody the Myers-Briggs, that everybody took it. And I found out, and it's not a test. A lot of people say it's a test. It's not a test. It's a self-reflection. It's a way of getting to know yourself more. And it gave context to my preference for one-on-one conversation, to listen, to recharge during my quiet time, like you, Ross.
Right.
And instead of an extrovert who wants to go to the after party, and after that, they are energized from that people contact. And I love people. I mean, I'm a coach. I love to listen one-on-one. However, that's wonderful, but I don't go diving into more people contact afterwards. It's downtime.
Which is why this is like, on one hand, I think even introverts, I know I do thrive on close relationships and being around people that we care about or enjoy company. It's just that we also need a mix. And so this has kind of been an interesting time because we certainly don't have to deal with some of the things that drain us, like office politics, working from home, and things like that. On the other hand, it is a little isolating, even for introverts, after a while. I'm fortunate because I've been used to working from home, but still a disruption in our lives for anybody. Just the things that we do on a day-to-day basis where we get out, whether it's even going to a store or going out to lunch and sitting down and talking with somebody, all those things are, at least here in New Jersey and probably in New York City where you are, completely off the table for right now.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our outdoor dining for a few more weeks or maybe longer. But yes, I know what you mean. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I believe most of us are social animals, and we do need other people. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. We need to connect. We need to, maybe, dare I say, gossip. We need to exchange war stories, support, all that kind of thing. And that's from human contact. And sometimes with people also like animals, but through conversation, through connection. And it's good to know yourself. How much do you need? And
Right.
that's the important thing. How much do you need? And since my space is the career coach space, I say, how much do you need to get your career goals met?
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job, if you're looking to expand or to get to the next level in your career, what do you need? And I'm not someone who would ever say you should get out there, don't be a wallflower. No, 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 no. It's what do you need to get your objectives achieved?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, don't just think of yourself. What do you need also to give back, to help others?
So when it comes to either virtual presentations or job interviews or any type of situation where the introvert is put on the spot and they have to
Uh,
perform or deliver in front of either one critical person who might hold the key to a job opportunity or a sale, or whether it's speaking in front of a group, what are those communication techniques or what are some tips that you find are most helpful, like those who become good communicators or those who overcome certain challenges and are able to be quote unquote extroverted in that moment and and handle that moment? What do they do well? What are the main things that they're able to do, those who are able to find success in this? I mean, for me, I know, like, it's like the light goes on and I'm alive. As soon as this light goes off and the show ends, I'm completely quiet. I mean, this isn't fake. You'd see me alive with my friends too, but this isn't me. Once the show ends, I'm like, I'm wiped.
That's when did a tech check earlier. I said, Ross, you are in your natural habitat. And I felt so honored to be in your natural habitat
Thank you, Nancy.
with you. This is where you belong. And all of us need to know what our natural habitat is. Where are you good? Where are you comfortable? Where do you belong? And finding that belonging is a huge thing. And for many an introvert, a lot of that is the ratio between listening and speaking might be high. You might listen a lot more than you speak. Let that be okay. And the ratio between needing to prepare your most important comments before a job interview, before an important meeting, a negotiation, what have you, may also be high, as opposed to an extrovert who just can say it on the top of their head. And speaking of that top of your head, even though your ability, if you're an introvert, may not be as strong as an extrovert for speaking off the cuff, to build that muscle, take an improv class. It will help you learn some key skills. And my favorite one is called Yes And. It's building off whatever energy, whatever words, whatever actions are happening right now, and collaborating with the other people through listening.
Wow. Those are great tips. It's amazing thing what you teach and how many people you've helped. The book is called Self-Promotion for Introverts. I know you wanted to do a giveaway of a book,
Sure.
which we appreciate. And I'm just going to ask people to put in the chat how you think you would benefit from reading Self-Promotion for Introverts, and I'll check back later. Whoever's got the best answer, I'll check back after the show. Why don't we do it that way, and we'll just pick the person who we think can most be helped by it.
I love that idea.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. I want to ask you this: when we break it all down, we're prepared. And preparation doesn't always mean like memorizing, right?
No.
Like I don't have any notes in front of me, but I've learned about who my guests are, or I know why I want to talk to them ahead of time, which then makes it easy to do this off the top of my head. But it requires some paying attention, which is what introverts probably are pretty good at, which is like paying attention to what people are doing. What is there a way that people, say, who are extroverted might develop that skill where they're not so much about communicating outwardly, but they take some time to observe and understand, what makes their guest tick or what makes the other person, unique and what questions, the audience might want to hear. A lot of extroverts maybe don't spend as much time on the other folks in that sense because they don't do as much observing. They're so comfortable in the social act as it happens, right?
That word observing is so important, Ross. And yes, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, that observing. And as an extrovert, a tip for extroverts out there is to count to 3, or some have joked in my workshops 10, but just count to 3 to let the other person finish. And also, it helps you stay in the moment and remember to really take in what the other person is saying, as opposed to thinking about what you're going to say, to jump on and jump in to do that. And the corollary to that, if we have...
Yeah, go ahead.
Is for an introvert, how to jump in, how to interject. I like the word interject versus interrupt for an introvert. If you're at a boisterous meeting and on a video chat, let's say, and everybody's chit, you want to get in. Well, the best thing is preventive medicine, be on the agenda, all that. But that doesn't always happen. And sometimes you need to jump in. And you do that by smiling, by saying, "Hey, Ross." And you could add something like, yes, and Ross, I also want to add. So with good energy, jump in your best voice with a big smile and just jump in. Otherwise, you get to risk career invisibility, which isn't a good thing. And jump in as early as you can in any given meeting, when it makes sense, because this way you have the visibility, you have the momentum.
That's fabulous. Great advice. Nancy, thanks so much for coming on. One other thing you didn't mention to me, but I've been following you, and I know you have a course coming up for continuing education at NYU, and that is open to anybody. You don't have to be in a master's program or anything. Tell us what that's about and how people can find out more information. There's a link if people are interested to read about the description and sign up in the description on Facebook and on YouTube.
Sure. Present your best self from, what's the title? Present your best self. I don't remember what we called it.
It relates to the topic we've been discussing tonight.
From virtual meetings to webinars. It's basically online presentation skills, presenting your best self on the likes of video meetings, video interviews, video, what have you.
Right.
Presentations, and really bringing your best self, whether it's your voice, your lighting, your coloring, the whole thing.
Right.
And especially if you're an introvert, we have special tips for you.
Awesome. Again, the book is Self-Promotion for Introverts. You can find it at livestreamdeals.com. Nancy, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ross.
That's great talking to Nancy. We're going to move on to Chef Daniela in just a second. This is Livestream Deals. I'm Ross Brand, and we've also got Elikqitie coming up later. She's got a new travel guide for eating gluten-free. So we're really moving into the food portion of the show now, which is good because it'll help me build up an appetite for after the show ends, as I continue to fill until I can remove this banner, which I didn't prepare to do. Okay, here we go. All right, here we are. Let's bring in Chef Daniela. Chef, thank you so much for joining us. I should bring in your other camera as well, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, and then I'm going to just make the switch here, and
Super,
I will change the background. And so, welcome. I love what you do. I've watched your show. I've seen you on other shows. And you just do a fabulous job of both explaining what you're doing and then actually showing it. The 2-camera thing is so cool, and so few people do it. So, welcome to Livestream Deals, and it's just great to have you on and talk to you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Ross. I want to say thank you, Nancy, too. You just spoke to my soul. I'm definitely an introvert at heart, and I'm like that person that's secretly loving this. This is my wheelhouse. I am found the right flow for my channel and for my community. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, your studio or your background, I don't know if that's your kitchen.
My kitchen.
But it looks beautiful. I mean, it couldn't be more perfect for video, for live streaming. How did you get started? Just tell us a little bit about your background. I know you've done some TV and radio and hosting. Tell us a little about your background and how you got to hosting a live streaming show.
Yeah, I think I'll work backwards. So this is
Okay.
actually my garage. It's a one-car garage, and I decided when we moved here 2 years ago that it was definitely an underutilized space. And so I had a big vision one night. I was sitting in my backyard, and I swear it came to me. I saw this studio, this kitchen in my mind, even with I don't know if you can see, but I do have a really cool rainbow soundboard. I saw this rainbow in my vision, and I saw the studio, and I thought, oh, that's really weird. What is that about? And I kind of just trusted it, and I drew it out on paper, and then I hired someone, and here the studio was born. And really what I was trying to do was, I, at the time, was doing a lot of stage shows. I'm the host and producer for the Disney Food and Wine Festival every year, and
Wow.
I had spent many years on stage. And prior to that, I did a lot of television and radio. I had a show on PBS, and there's nothing like being in your own home and being in your own space, either your office or any creative space that you have, to let yourself sort of generate your creations. And I've never felt more at ease in my own space. And so what we did actually at the very beginning of COVID was I became plant-based, and I decided I wanted to actually grow a community around me as a chef and as a health coach, going through my own exploration of finding my way in the plant-based world. And so here we are, and I'm doing live events like this. I have a television show that I actually host right here. I guess we call it computer show right here from my studio every single day. But I'm doing a lot of these conversations with lots of different organizations and individuals. So there's always a place for me and this content to fit in, and I'm feeling very grateful for that.
Yeah, Plant-Based Made Easy, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon on the West Coast. It's a terrific show. You have to check it out. It's on Facebook and YouTube. I was wondering, I've been at different times in my life vegan. Actually, I was until COVID came along, and I went in the opposite direction for right now. And so I was wondering, what is the difference between plant-based, which wasn't a term that was in the lingo when the first few times that I tried, and now it's in the lingo much more in the culture now. Is plant-based and vegan interchangeable, or is plant-based more aspirational?
This is a great question, and something that I get a lot. And also, there's no right or wrong definite answer to this. I just want to put that out there. The first thing that I'll say is that most people kind of realize that you can be vegan, but that doesn't necessarily require you to eat healthy, right? You can be vegan all day long and eat chocolate chip cookies and bonbons and donuts and nachos. And a lot of vegans do that. I won't say most, but I definitely know some. And the point of plant-based and the differentiator between plant-based and vegan is that plant-based people are really coming with the mindset of plants first, produce first. How can we eat the rainbow? How can we use healthy food? Whole healthy food is generally the definition of plant-based. It's whole foods instead of processed or even low processed foods. So that's like eliminating oil and even salt and things like this. How can you actually utilize all of your meals with just the fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, pulses, and all of that, as opposed to enjoying all of the delicious processed items that can also be vegan. Right. So there's a big difference.
All the substitutes for meat and dairy that exist in health food stores, which are often the most unhealthy thing in the health food store, but you think it's healthy because, or you feel, you don't feel guilty because it's like, oh, I'm replacing this, replacing something else, but probably it's not much better for you, right?
Right, but it goes to show that like you don't have to actually remove all of these processed foods out of your diet if it doesn't work for you. I always encourage people to kind of do what works for you. One of the hardest things for people is to kind of jump in fully. I heard Nancy talk about this. One of the ways we can be successful is actually doing it at our pace, doing it the way that feels comfortable, feeling a sense of belonging, even in the kitchen. And so while I might have a plant-based Made Easy show and it's cooking, that's actually just the tool I use to connect with people because I think it's a powerful tool and we all have to eat, right?
Right. We're talking with Chef Daniela. I want to say a quick hello. Dale Roberts is here, self-publishing from Dale. Lenny Besterman, Sarasota, does drone work. Awesome videographer from drones. Good to see him. Dale, of course, a great friend. Danny Green, you might know him. He's here. He's produces Chef Daniella's show and is, I think, responsible for operating the 2-camera setup, which is fantastic. Anita Sonia's here, Beauty Bubble. Thanks so much for joining us. And so if you're plant-based, does that mean you're not eating meat ever, you're not eating dairy ever, and you're not eating eggs ever if you're plant-based?
Yeah, if you're plant-based, you're trying not to eat any animal products or meat or excretions, as they say. So
you're a vegan, but you're going further in that you're a healthy vegan who's eating plant-based rather than processed.
Yeah, bingo. That's
okay.
Really the definition. Yeah, you've got it. And I'd love to show you, actually, because sometimes it's just easier to show people the food, because in their minds, it might seem more complicated than it actually is. And that's the whole thing about going plant-based and making it easy, hence plant-based made easy. So can I make a dinner for you,
I
Rob?
would love to see it.
Okay, I'm going to make you dinner tonight. Tonight, I'm going to make everyone here that's listening a little quick meal in minutes, all right? And then this is perfect for the family. I'm going to show you how to make a delicious flatbread piadini, all right? So what that is, it's a flatbread pizza, and you put it in the oven with a bunch of different toppings. It gets really nice and bubbly, and then we're going to actually top it with something special. So the first thing that I want to do is show you the crust. I'm going to use a little lavash. Now you can see from my 2 cameras. I'm going to show you the overhead. This is like just flatbread. It's whole stone wheat. It's cracked, salt, water. That's it. I'm now going to add a little bit of this kale pesto that I made. You guys, it's so simple. It's just a little lemon juice, a little garlic, and some dark leafy greens. It can be kale. It can be spinach. It can be even basil if you want traditional tasting pesto. And I'm going to use this as my base. I love pesto as my base of pizza or flatbread. It's probably my #1 choice over red sauce. And you can top this with anything. I love to kind of put out a plethora of different ingredients for people to choose from. Today, I thought I might use a little early girl tomatoes. These are perfect right now, this time of year. It's the end of summer, just started the summer, the autumn equinox. So these are really ripe, delicious early girl tomatoes. They're super juicy. I'm just gonna chop up or actually slice a couple thick slices of this. I wanna keep it thick. I want to make sure I get a little bit of these tomatoes in every bite. I keep them thick so they don't actually run through the flatbread. And I'm going to go ahead and just top my flatbread with the cremini mushroom as well as the tomato. And then one of the things I hear from people, Ross, is people often say, well, I eat animal products, or I'm a vegetarian, but I could never go plant-based or vegan because I can't give up my cheese products, like mozzarella and yogurt, all this stuff. Well, I'm going to show you how to make plant-based Parmesan in less than a minute. You want to take a food processor, which I have right here. And inside this food processor, I'm going to show you to make plant-based Parmesan with 2 ingredients. First, some organic cashews. Now, these are glyphosate-free. They're organic. They're really great cashew pieces, just about half a cup. And then to this, I'm going to add a half a cup of nutritional yeast. So this is really important when we're plant-based. Most vegans or plant-based people have to take a supplement for B vitamins, specifically vitamin B12, because we don't get enough of it with plant foods. But that is actually only because most vegans and plant-based or vegetarian people don't eat enough vegetables. And they overwash their fruits and vegetables. One of the ways we can get our B vitamins is actually from the dirt that's actually residual or left on our fruits and vegetables. Isn't that interesting? Wow. So 2 ingredients right in the food processor. I'm just going to turn this on. And just going to pulse this until it actually resembles Parmesan cheese. Turn this. Uh-oh. Oh, it's not locked. There we go.
I love that it's just 2 ingredients.
That's it.
I know I have a bag of cashews. That's
it.
Just
you can
plain
make
cashews.
A bag of cashews. And it looks just like Parmesan. It tastes like Parmesan cheese. I usually keep it in a glass container just like this. I have a little label. It says B12 love. It reminds me that I want those pretty B vitamins. It's going to make me feel good. This is going to last a month in your refrigerator. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top my pizza with a little bit of this plant-based parm. And here's another really cool thing that you can do just to emphasize that you can have delicious plant-based cheese. I have some delicious plant-based ricotta. Now, this is homemade, you guys. It's just cashew pulp. The exact same thing that I just did with the cashews, except for here, I'm taking cashews and I'm soaking them in water for 4 hours. And then I'm just blending them until it's chunky in a food processor. And you get this beautiful cashew ricotta. All right. I don't know about you, but I love ricotta on my pizza. It kind of bubbles and melts away. It's perfect. It's going to be really great. Now, I'm Sicilian, so I need a little spice. How about some red peppers, right? Pepperoncini, red pepper flakes. And then Nanu's oregano, homegrown oregano from my Nanu Luciano. Have to have a little bit of that. And then this goes right into the broiler. It takes just a few minutes. It's going in now. And don't worry, Ross. I made one ahead of time because I knew people were going to get hungry. I want you to see how easy this is. Done and done, you guys. Here is your flatbread piadini.
Oh, wow. That looks great.
But, you know, it's not piadini because it needs one more thing to be qualified for piadini. Piadini in Italian is like a pizza or flatbread sandwich. So I'm going to take some dark leafy greens. In this case, I'm using arugula. I'm going to take a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. But if you're whole food plant-based, all you need is a little bit of your favorite salt substitute. I'll use a bit of sea salt. Give this a mix. And now layer this on. This, my friend, is a piadini. You eat it just like a sandwich. Come on, dinner served.
Oh, wow. Come on.
That's all for
Wow.
you.
I so wish, like, as soon as the show's over, I could have that. That is
right?
so cool.
So easy.
That's unbelievable. I did not know that it was that easy to make your own cashew-based cheese.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, even whether I've been, vegetarian or vegan or not, I haven't eaten dairy in 25 years because of allergies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've tried all these different, dairy substitutes from the store, and they're awful mostly. So that looks fabulous. And the fact you can do it at home and with just 2 ingredients or 1 ingredient essentially soaking for the ricotta, that's amazing.
Yeah, and the stuff that you buy at the grocery store, let's be honest, it's very expensive. Plant-based and dairy-free and vegan cheeses, especially dairy breads and dairyless or plant-based ingredients and vegan ingredients in general in the market tend to be so much more expensive than what you can actually do in the home with just a few simple ingredients. It's going to be healthier and it's going to be a lot healthier on your wallet as well. So just take that into consideration. All of what I have available in terms of my recipe toolbox, I want you guys to have. I want people to feel really confident in the kitchen. So I want this recipe and all of the ones that I offer on my cooking show to be right in your kitchen. And so that's why I'm going to give away a free cookbook tonight. It's my cookbook, A Taste of Plant-Based. It's 5 wonderful recipes just like this. They're simple. I'm going to offer in this a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, a snack recipe, and a sweet recipe. So you'll have all your bases covered. I think we lost Ross. Did we lose Ross? All right, I'm going to see if I can refresh. Oh, I'm still live. Oh, we lost Ross. All right, I'm still live, but I'm going to give you the link now because Ross can't. Oh, here he is. He's back.
Okay, here we go. Thank you for just keeping going. I thought I would drop out, so rather than seeing it spin and you thinking it's not working because I think it was on my end, I just dropped down, and that way when it came back you could still be going.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I was just mentioning the free cookbook, you guys. I'll give you the link now. It's bit.ly/a taste of plant-based. You can head right there. And I know the link on Ross's website was broken, so that's the link. You guys will put it in the comment box too.
I'm going to put that on screen in just a second. Bit.ly, a taste of plant-based.
Yes.
And you can tell me if...
We got a comment.
That right?
Ross. We got, let's see. I don't see anything. It's bit.ly/a taste of plant-based.
Yeah. Okay.
And
it's up on the screen.
People thought you left to go run next door to grab a sandwich.
Yeah, no, I went to get some of the food that you were making, actually. I was just going to get a flight across the country and see what I could get. Well, thank you so much. Of course, people should check out your show. It's fabulous. It's every single weekday on YouTube and on Facebook. There's links in the description. On Facebook, there's a link to your Facebook page. On YouTube, there's a link to your YouTube channel. So we're sending you right within the platform so as many people can see and find you as easily as possible. And, of course, bit.ly, a taste of plant-based. And is there an answer that you're looking for? How should we pick a winner? I can come back into the chat in a little bit and take a look.
Oh man, I should let you choose. It doesn't matter to me.
Or you can choose. You can choose if you saw something that you.
Well, I have to give it to You Do It, because he said, shout out to the Italians. You do it, you rock. You're getting a free cookbook, A Taste of Plant-Based. Thank you so much for being.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chef Daniela, and thank you to Danny as well. I love the way you guys are using StreamYard, and I love the show. And as somebody who's trying to move into more plant-based eating, I'm looking forward to following your recipes and staying in touch. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. That is Chef Daniela. Again, you can find her at, look at that delicious food. You can find her at bit.ly/a-taste-of-plant-based and check out her YouTube channel and Facebook page with the links in the description as just phenomenal. I mean, how cool was that? A cooking demonstration at the same time as an interview, 2 cameras. And we've had 2 great guests so far. Nancy Ankowitz talking about her book, Self-Promotion for Introverts. Chef Daniela talking about her plant-based Made Easy show and demonstration, her cookbooks. Great stuff. We've got one more wonderful guest to go. We're going to bring her right on right now. It is Elikqitie. How are you?
Hey, Ross. How are you tonight?
It's great to see you. It's the first time I think we've been on a show together, even though we've known each other for a while. And I mean, couldn't pick a better time, right? Your book is coming out. It's available now. Is it pre-order, or people can actually go ahead and buy it as of today?
So no, so my ebook was out about last week, and my paperback book literally just published 4 hours ago. So it is like super hot off the press.
I mean, this is timely. This is terrific. So it's called The Guide to Traveling Gluten Free, and you've been hosting. What are you, close to 100 episodes in the Travel Gluten Free podcast? 104
yesterday.
Wow.
I know.
So that's
I
quite
feel
a
like
milestone. 104 episodes. And have you been gluten free for years, or are you taking us on a journey as you're kind of figuring it out as you go along?
So I have actually been gluten-free for 4 years. 4 years ago, I figured out that I could not eat gluten from an elimination diet. And when I tried to put it back in, I was horribly ill. And I didn't realize that, like, on a daily basis, how sick I was feeling until I looked in my tea cabinet and realized I hadn't drank any ginger tea in about a month. And ginger is really good for upset stomach. And I thought, because at the time I was a full-time teacher in middle school, that it was just like it was just nerves and anxiety from work, but it actually wasn't. It was actually gluten.
Wow. And so there's different. A lot of people are going gluten free. It's sort of a trend now. Now, for people who have celiacs, I believe it's an essential thing. Do you fall in the camp that, like, if you're celiac or you're on that close to it, or whatever the measures are, right, then you should be gluten-free, but if you're not, go ahead and eat all the gluten you want? Or you fall in the camp of, like, gluten isn't really a particularly healthy thing for anybody's system?
Well, actually both, and this is the reason why. So I have actually, my daughter is celiac and I'm celiac, and I believe my dad was, but nobody ever tested back in the 80s, but he had passed away from the cancer that you get when you have celiac disease, which is adenocarcinoma. And like Daniela, I grew up in a big Italian family. Well, my family wasn't big, but my extended Italian family was ginormous. And so we would eat bread and pasta all the time. And so being that we have autoimmune, and my grandmother, my dad's mother, had an autoimmune disease that affects your muscles and joints. And so basically how it works is that if you have celiac disease, you absolutely need to stay off of all gluten, because it's not like some people think, like, oh, if you eat it, you get a stomach ache. It's actually way worse than that. So if I get gluten, it's basically a cross between the flu and food poisoning. Like, I'm not going to go into detail, but imagine getting both at the same time. And so you get really, really, really ill, because what happens with celiac disease, it's an autoimmune disease. And so anything that's autoimmune, your body, when it gets whatever that protein is going to attack itself. So like lupus, Graves' disease, with Hashimoto's. So if you have any autoimmune disease, even if you're not celiac, you should actually avoid gluten, because gluten it doesn't actually trigger your thing, but it can make your autoimmune condition worse. So I see lots of people, like when there used to be live expos and I would meet people, there's tons of people I met with Hashimoto's disease, completely gluten-free. They're like, oh, I feel so much better when I don't eat gluten, because there's just something with gluten and your immune system that it just inflames your immune system. And so, yeah, so if you have any adverse reaction to any food, you should definitely stay away from it, because people think like, oh, it's just a little stomach upset. But what you don't realize is that every time you eat that, you're damaging your digestive system. And our digestive system is the basis for all of our immune system. So you're really hurting your immune system, which nobody wants to do, especially now with all the stuff that's going on. And so just really taking care of your body, you should avoid anything that does not make you feel good when you eat it.
So when you travel, obviously you face certain challenges when you're going to a new place and you have to eat out or you have to go shopping, and they don't know you, you don't know them, and you have to figure out, am I safe eating here? Are they telling me the truth when they say that they can prepare foods? What do you face when you travel, and how do you overcome those challenges?
It really depends on where you are. Seriously, one of the things I found, that when I go to a big city, like I haven't been to a big city recently, but when I traveled a lot, when I go to big cities, it's fairly easy to find a gluten-free place, because highly densely populated areas or college towns are usually going to have a lot more of healthier food. And so it's really easy to find. But some of the challenges is like I walked into, I've actually walked out of restaurants before, because I've walked in and I've asked them about their menu, and they seem like it's like I'm putting them giving them a hardship by asking the chef if something's gluten-free. And so if I feel like that person doesn't want to do that, that's fine. I'll just walk out of the restaurant. And yeah, it might hurt their feelings, but my health is more important than the other person's feelings. And I have to put my health first. Like I tell other people who aren't celiac to kind of get a perspective of it. It's like, I wouldn't ask a diabetic to eat a candy bar. So like, why would somebody expect me to jeopardize my health to eat gluten? But like there's certain apps and stuff that I talk about in my book that are really great to help you find gluten-free food. And I know there's certain brands, like when I go out and travel, if I'm doing a road trip where I can take food with me, I know there's certain brands I can always trust no matter where I find them. Like one of them is Char, and I found Char in, I believe it was Norway and Iceland last year. And I know Char is completely gluten-free and it's safe for anybody who's celiac. So that if I eat Char, that I know I'm not going to get sick. So just depending on certain brands, but just it's really challenging. And then certain ethnic dishes are more like Asian, because soy sauce is one people don't know has gluten in it. In America, it has wheat. In Japan, it doesn't. So in America, any Asian restaurants can be really sketchy depending on the restaurant. But there's some restaurants like Wagamama in London that are really, really good at gluten-free. So it just depends. Like you just really have to know the questions to ask when you walk into a restaurant.
I find I've been dairy-free for about 25 years because I have allergies, and it's not necessarily... most people think you can take it's lactose. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I tend to get cold symptoms. So like you would think I had a really bad cold if I ate dairy. And I don't want to go through that. And 20 years ago, 15 years ago, restaurants were very careless. Like or stores, they'd just be like, no, it doesn't have any dairy in it. It's XYZ. And, of course, you look at if you find the ingredients, they don't know or they don't care. Now I find that people like restaurants and particularly bigger companies in particular, but even small shops are very careful. They don't want to be responsible for anybody getting sick. I think there's much more consciousness around people having certain challenges when it comes to eating. So, I mean, I think that's a good change in general, and I think that must make it easier than if you were going through this journey 20 years ago where people just didn't care. They're like, what's the big deal? You eat this, you don't eat it,
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, 20 years ago, I had a health food. It was a little over 20 years ago. I had a health food store, and there was maybe like 3 or 4 brands of gluten free. And now there's probably about 4 or 5 dozen at least that I can think of just off the top of my head. So yeah, it is definitely much easier to be gluten free now. And a lot of restaurants have what's called an allergy protocol. So like Ross, you can't eat dairy, so you can ask them to tag your ticket for dairy allergen, and I can tell them gluten allergen, because it's not just wheat. Gluten has some barley and a lot of other different grains as well. Another thing is that a lot of restaurants have like an allergy protocol. If they don't, you can ask them, hey, can you clean the cutting board, or can you change your gloves when you make food? One of the places I eat is Mod Pizza. And one of the reasons I eat there, people say like, oh, aren't you afraid of cross-contamination? Well, if you've never been to Mod, everything's all open. You can actually walk through the line and watch them make your pizza, which I do. I call it the pizza stalker. Like I just walk with the person as they're making my food. And I ask them, can you change your gloves? And they do. And they get new stuff out. They get a new pizza cutter, and I say, can you please use a new pizza cutter on my pizza? But it's also being proactive on your part, and really being proactive for yourself and advocating for yourself. Because if you don't advocate for yourself, it's very easy to have someone be a little more sloppy. But if someone really knows, like I tell people, it's a medical thing, it's not a preference. Because yes, I would really rather eat that eclair that's over there. So. And just advocating for yourself and saying the right words, which I talk about in my book as well, is really important to doing that.
So what are your favorite places, some of the places that you talk about in the book where you've traveled? And tell us about some of the places where it's been easiest to be gluten-free and some of the places where it's been the biggest challenge.
Okay, so easiest gluten-free, Victoria, Canada. Okay. Because there's another influencer called Ellen Baines, and she actually started the gluten-free scene back in like 15 years ago. I ate gluten-free fish and chips, gluten-free onion rings, all fried stuff. Fried stuff is really hard to get for celiacs, because if you fry it in a fryer with wheat, you cannot eat it. It's cross-contaminated, and that actually makes me the sickest. But I ate fried stuff all week. I gained so much weight on that trip. So Victoria, Canada, absolutely gluten-free friendly. Another place is Austin, Texas, where I get a place called Max's Wine Dive. I get the best gluten-free fried chicken, but there's also a lot of other great gluten-free places there. Pretty much any major city in California. New York City is amazing. Chicago is amazing for gluten-free. Where else? There's another place that I know I'm missing off the top of my head. Seattle has some really great gluten-free places as well. So I live in the Salt Lake area, which is like, there's like one gluten-free bakery where I live. And usually you can tell how good a place is with gluten-free is how many dedicated gluten-free bakeries there are.
Right.
So it's okay. I mean, there's places I can eat that aren't dedicated gluten-free that I've eaten it several times that I don't get sick. But the places I've listed, definitely. Montreal, Canada, I have not been there. But Jenny Fink and Taryn from My Celiac Life lives there. And I hear raves about Montreal. London, England. Oh my gosh.
Right.
They have amazing gluten-free choices.
Okay, so now what are the most challenging places that you've been to?
Oh my gosh, the most challenging places. There's a little rural town somewhere in, I think it was Utah or Colorado. I can't remember which. But I walked in and I knew, rural towns are really hard because a lot of times, not all the time, 99% of the time, rural towns are just like meat and potatoes. And I'm like, I know. And so the girl comes up, the waitress comes up, and I tell her that I can't eat gluten. I'm like, what are my choices on your menu? Because nothing was marked. And she's like, well, hold on, let me go back and check. And she went back, and then she brought my daughter and I out a glass of water. And she's like, well, you're not allergic to water, are you? And I looked at her and I said, let me just leave you a tip, and I think we'll need to go.
Right.
So rural places are definitely the hardest because usually they don't have like they just don't understand and they don't know, like they don't understand gluten-free. So
there isn't the volume of people with, and so they maybe have had one person ever come in, right? From the
right, exactly, yeah. So rural places, just in general, are the hardest. Now, you obviously can find the exception, but rural places I found are the hardest because I travel through. I do a lot of national park trips in Utah, and you're literally going through towns that have like a population of 105. I mean, I'm talking like super rural. Like I think they make most of their money off the traffic tickets when you drive really fast. So if you're ever driving through southern Utah, go the speed limit.
Right. I want to say a quick hello to Dee Nimmin, who joins us. Dee has come up with these amazing StreamYard templates. I'm not a designer, but I kind of customized it to fit the colors a little bit of my my show, and it came out looking a little bit like the New York Mets, which wasn't really what I was going for. But hey, it looks great right out of the box, and Dee's got these amazing tutorials. So if you're interested in checking that out and getting it for yourself, it makes a difference to have these templates and be able to have cool backgrounds. Livestreamuniverse.com/templates, livestreamuniverse.com/templates. The book we're talking about is The Guide to Traveling Gluten Free. You can find that as well as the templates, and you can find Nancy's book and information about Chef Daniela in the chat, in the description on Facebook and YouTube, also at livestreamdeals.com. Now, for recipes that normally would have gluten in them, are there certain substitutes that you like to use, or do you tend to more or less just avoid those foods altogether?
Oh no, I'm Italian, like Italian background, so I have to eat bread or I'm going to die.
Right.
I think it's just a genetic thing. So there's actually some gluten-free flour blends that I absolutely love. One is Bob's Red Mill makes a gluten-free flour blend that is really, really good. It's just a 1-to-1. Also, there's another brand that I love that's actually local here out west. It's called Namaste Foods, and they make a 1-to-1 flour blend. So there are flour blends you can use. There's also like a ton of, I don't do gluten-free recipes. That's not my game, but I love cooking and I love baking especially. So there's a ton of gluten-free recipes online. So if I can't get it, I can usually find a recipe to make it. And I like doing I like doing some grain free. So I do like coconut flour and almond flour and tiger nut flour and all that good stuff too. So yeah, but I love baking. Baking is my jam. It's so good.
So there are good options then, and there are ways that really will make the meal healthier anyway, even if you're not somebody who has to be gluten free. Do you find that it tastes just as good, that it's, or better?
Well, here's the thing with gluten-free. A lot of people have the mindset that, oh, it's gluten-free, it doesn't taste good. But actually, like most of I have literally 18 bags of flour in my pantry right now, and none of them are wheat or barley or contain gluten. It's like really gives you a bigger flavor palette. So like corn flour is in and of itself gluten-free. It's just corn. But I mean, you get all these wonderful different flavors and tastes from all these different other flours. So one of the things that I realized when I turned gluten-free is that it really expanded my palate, my horizon to like just experiment and try all these other different flours that I've never tried before, which is really cool. And of course, it takes some time to learn how to bake with them because they don't have gluten in them and they can tend to dry out a little more. And plus, I live at 7,000 feet, so
right.
I have elevation and I live in a dry climate as well. So I have those two modifications to make.
So how do you compensate for the fact that it could tend to dry out more?
So I usually use less flour. So whatever the flour is, because gluten-free flours tend to be a little drier, or sometimes I'll add a little more water, like a tablespoon or two, but you have to be really careful with that because if you add too much water, that can take away from the flavor of whatever you're making. But yeah,
right.
So just using a little less flour usually works pretty well.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And when you go to the store, let's say, and you want to buy, say, a pasta, is there certain brands that you buy of gluten-free that are better than other ones?
Well, some of the ones, so I recently found out that corn bothers my joints. And so a lot of pastas will have corn in them. But as far as quality goes, like Berea, which actually is an Italian favorite because they make an amazing wheat line too. Berea pasta is really good. Oh my gosh, I've tried so many fantastic gluten-free pastas. It's almost hard to go wrong with gluten-free pastas because there's so many good ones out there. It's really, I can't actually tell you the last time I tried a gluten-free pasta and it wasn't good. So wow. I say just like go out, try it. But some people get like a bunch of pasta. Just try like one brand at a time to see like which one you like, or maybe get 2 different boxes. But one of the things I found is I really like the chickpea flour-based pastas because they tend to hold together better than the rice-based flour pastas. The rice-based ones can easily go from cooked to like falling apart. But I found the chickpea ones work a lot better.
What's a food that people might assume has gluten but doesn't have gluten?
Oh my gosh, they assume has gluten but doesn't. That's a hard one. It's usually the flip. It's usually people think like, oh, that doesn't have gluten in it.
Oh, right. I'm thinking buckwheat doesn't have gluten.
Yes,
Maybe that's.
yes.
I was trying to think of something that you could use as a pasta, maybe that doesn't have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so actually, I just made buckwheat rolls the other night. It's really good. So buckwheat is actually the seed of, oh my gosh, it's a red vegetable. I can't think of rhubarb, I believe, is rhubarb seeds that are ground up into a flour. And you think it's the name buckwheat, but it actually has no meat in it whatsoever,
Right.
which was bizarre. I actually had to look that up on my phone because the server told me that, but I've had server tell me wrong things. I looked it up on my phone on like 3 different websites. I'm like, oh my gosh, buckwheat really doesn't have wheat. But it's a really hearty, like very earthy, type of flour, which I really love. And so I mixed that. I can't remember what other flour I used. I believe it was arrowroot flour. Anyway, and I made these amazing little like rolls with buckwheat the other night.
Wow.
So yes, buckwheat does not have any wheat in it. I think that's the only thing I can think of.
Right. Can you stick around for a bit? We'll do a little post show. I want to bring Chef Daniela back on if she's up to it. If you want to come back on, just nod, Chef Daniela. If you don't want to come back on, that's not a problem. Are you good to come back on? And let's see. There you are. And Nancy, are you good to come back on?
Hi.
Hey, so this is Livestream Deals. We've talked to all 3 of these wonderful guests. They've all got great products over at livestreamdeals.com, but it's been fun watching the private chat a little bit, and you guys are all kind of vibing together. Nancy, if you don't mind me mentioning, is a vegan, and you know, Chef Daniela cooks plant-based, and wow, I mean, we could just do a show for an hour and just talk food and where we go and what we avoid and what we like to eat. But this was so much fun. It was so great having you guys on.
Oh, it was great being on, Ross. Thank you.
Yeah.
What a treat.
Yeah.
I got so hungry.
If anybody has any questions before we wrap up, we'd love to get your questions in here. Just for the panel, and I can tell you're all health conscious in this time where we're probably not going out to eat a lot. What are your favorite meals to make for yourself at home?
Okay, this is really hard for me because I make every meal at home.
Right.
Of my entire life. So anything that I'm hungry for is what I'll say. This is depending on the season. It's depending on truly what my palate craves. I really let my body kind of dictate what my next meal will be. And I'm happy to say that I haven't repeated a meal in COVID because I've been super inspired in the kitchen. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but I certainly have definitely fallen in love with the kitchen in a new way during this time.
Wow.
And I was totally inspired by Daniela at both of those conversations. Even though I'm not gluten-free, there's a lot in the gluten-free universe that makes me hungry too.
Right.
And one of my favorite meals, as you can tell, I love color. So tonight's dinner, purple cabbage, red peppers, green broccoli, green kale, yellow accents of peppers as well. Threw in some vegan pesto. So I love pesto. And just throw it all in and the colors just sing. Some red onions. Oh my gosh.
Elikqitie?
So for me, because it's fall, it's anything in pie form. So like vegetable pot pie, apple pie, peach pie. I actually had vegetable pot pie and peach pie for lunch today. So I love making, I have like a great gluten-free pie crust that's on my Instagram recipe. And I love making anything in pie form in the fall. I will eat pretty much anything in pie form.
Oh, that's so cool.
Love it. Ross, what about you?
What oh wow. I'm not much of a cook, but when I do, I'm good with anything with vegetables. I don't like to cook meat, even though I'm not vegan. I just don't like to cook it, to think about it, to touch it. So I like making kind of Asian style food and doing that with vegetables